forgotten to do this. Yeah, it's been like 3 weeks. All right. Good morning, Chair Postman, members Garrett Bollendroff, staff and guests. The lobbies are open and the recording has begun.
Thank you. We will convene the Liquor and Cannabis Board Caucus meeting for January 3rd, 2023, our first meeting of the year. Happy New Year to everybody. We're going to start today with a 30-minute executive session by the board. We will now go into executive session under RCW 4230.110. The board will go into executive session to evaluate the qualifications of an applicant for public employment or to review the performance of a public employee. So we'll do that. We'll be back here at 10:30. If we need to go long, we'll come back and let you know that. If we finish before then, we still will reconvene at 10:30 in the public portion of the meeting. So everyone can just stand by and Dustin will work the magic and we'll go into executive session. Thank you. Oh, are you doing breakout room?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, I don't need.
So you need to log into there.
Oh, I do need to log into that. Shoot, right, sorry.
You're gonna put a PowerPoint up on this screen, right? Dustin, did I need to do anything?
Just wait, be patient.
Okay.
I only have one link.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We're going to put you in the meeting.
Right,
and
we're
then
doing it
roll
as a
you
breakout,
over.
not as the separate.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I'm a little slow.
That's all right. It's different than the ones we did prior.
Right. So now we'll see if I can actually log in.
David, you're moving really fast this morning.
All the time. I am going to be super high energy. Oh my God, it's always something. That was fun. Okay, are we back?
We are back.
You're live.
We are back. The board is out of its executive session and we will continue on with our regular agenda now. Our big item today is board meeting prep and a rules update. And I will turn it over to Dr. Hoffman to run this next part. Hello and Happy New Year.
Sure. Good morning, Chair Postman, board members Garrett and Vollendroff.
Morning.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
I'll start with the rules update just because we have so much happening with all three rules coordinators on board now, so we can move some of our projects forward that we were hoping to move forward in a timely fashion. So I'll start with the alcohol side of the house. With the private club membership drive rule petition that we received last year, Daniel is planning on bringing a CR 101 on February 1st on that. So we're really looking forward to seeing that move forward. We do think that's going to be a pretty prescriptive rule project. Really, it was just one change that the petitioner wanted to make. So we don't think that there's going to be a lot of stakeholder engagement involved with that. So it could be fairly, dare I say, simple to move that one forward. We all know that wrenches get thrown in that sometimes, but we're hoping that this one is a fairly simple rule change. Daniel's also going to bring the cloud storage CR 101 forward tentatively January 18th, so at the next board meeting. So making great progress on that as well. So that's what we've got going on on the alcohol side of the house at this point. And then moving in, I'll stop there. Any questions there?
No.
Okay. Well, I also wanted to share Daniel's working on moving some of the previous requests from agency staff. So these are small tweaks, if you will, to rule that have needed to be made over the years where we have redundancy, we have conflict within the alcohol rules sections. He's working on the work that Audrey started in that regard and finding alignment where he can, repealing, thinking about repealing where necessary. So it's a larger project. We may need to separate it into a couple of buckets of work, but he's doing that analysis right now and doing a really great job there. So thank you for that, Daniel. Okay, any questions before moving on to the cannabis side of the house? Okay. So with respect to cannabis plant canopy, Jeff is working on curating all of the material that we received during our World Cafe sessions. And at this point, looks like he'll be bringing some conceptual rules forward to the internal work group. I'm hoping, and Jeff, I'm going to ping you on this, I'm hoping we can have that ready to go by early February. I know there's a lot of interest in seeing those rules move forward. So Jeff, does that sound about right to you?
Hi, Kathy. Yes, I
Hi.
didn't have my laptop open. I'm sorry.
Sure, no worries.
Yeah. That's what I'm hoping to be on track for that kind of a timetable. I think that's what my expectation is.
Okay, and just to be fair, there's a lot of material that we called during the World Cafe session. So trying to distill that down is no small feat. And Jeff has done that with previous rule projects in such a great way. No, he can do it again here as well, of course, but just a lot of material for us to go through. With respect to advertising, Cassidy is going through the material that Robert Despain worked on previously and hopes to bring that project forward for more internal work so we can start doing public outreach in the not so distant future. So I'm assuming that will be February as well. So moving on to rule petitions that we received with respect to cannabis, and those have to do with the minors under 16 in production facilities and also bringing minors in with contractors. Cassidy plans to bring the CR 101 forward on that on February 14th. And then finally, with respect to cannabis sampling, I know I heard that there is interest, a lot of discussion around that at the WACA conference that unfortunately I wasn't able to attend, but we'll be bringing the 101 forward with that on February 1st. And then I just wanted to add, Jeff will be hosting the quality control work group on January 5th, right, Jeff? That's right around the corner, like this week, right?
Yes, Thursday.
Okay, so Thursday, right. So Jeff's got a really interesting group of folks. I think there's 12 or 13 people, right?
I think we have 10 right now.
10, okay, sorry.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
there will be 10 people on that work group. And we hope to have an interesting discussion around whether or not the quality control rules on the cannabis side are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Go ahead, David.
Yep.
Question, Jeff, on Canopy for either one of you. You know, when talking about distilling all those comments, what's the end product look like? Will we be able to get a written summary? Is there something that maybe the two of you come and just to a caucus and share with us those thoughts, and we have a chance to read it and ask you about them or something? I
Yeah.
just think the board probably would like to kind of dig in a little into what were we hearing from stakeholders.
Yeah, certainly. I'd love to bring a issue paper to you and go over it and brief you on what the ideas that came out of the World Cafe and from other comments have been. So I would be I'd be very happy to schedule some time for that.
Yeah, let's set some time at a caucus, a fair amount of time that
Okay.
we could really talk about what's in there and ask questions. And, you know, before you do too much on rule development, it would be good for us to catch up a little bit, I think.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of things to consider there. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Thank
Jeff,
you.
Yeah,
I have
and
a
I
quick-
think, oh, go ahead, sorry.
I just had a quick question about the quality control work group, and just was curious about the makeup. You said there's about 10 people, and are those internal, external? I'm just trying to educate myself. And what's your intended outcome for Thursday's meeting? Is this like the beginning of a series of meetings, or is just a little more detail on that would be helpful?
Sure. Yeah. Thursday's meeting is the first gathering, and we hope to just do introductions and to go around the table and hear from people and what their interest is in the quality control rules. I will be taking minutes and summarizing what we discuss. We're looking at the possibility of having up to 6 meetings throughout the year, spaced 2 months apart, and it's a 1 hour meeting that we're starting out with. And we may need to expand that time or have subcommittees or something like that. But hoping to get a fair evaluation of how the rules are working out. These are all members of the public, save for one. There's one participant from the Department of Health who works in prevention. She's interested in the group, but there's representation from both sides of the mountain. There's some producers, some processors, some people who work with inventory in retail locations who are interested in product quality and what they see for their own information. There are some other people who are medical users who bring that perspective. A retired nurse who is a medical patient. So I think we should have an interesting mixture of perspectives.
That's great. That's super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And any questions you have about it, I'm happy to tell you more about it.
All right, anything else on the rules update side? Thanks for all of that, Jeff. Appreciate it. Okay. So if I may, the only item we have on the agenda, Policy and Rules has on the agenda for tomorrow, is to discuss the petition that was forwarded to our staff by Josh McDonald on November 9th, asking the board to initiate rulemaking to amend WAC 314-17-015, and that pertains to Class 13 alcohol server permit holders. And that was extending the temporary allowance that we offered during the pandemic, making that into permanent rule. And I've spoken with the three of you separately about the content of our recommendation. And without going into any of the details, I'll just move directly to the conclusion. But I really wanted to emphasize the concerns of our internal staff about moving this petition forward, and the opportunity for us to engage across our entire authorizing environment should the board decide to accept this petition for rule inquiry into the future. Because I think it's clear that we do have the statutory authority to contemplate what is offered in the petition, but there is significant concern about the broader impacts and implications of moving this expired temporary allowance to permanent rule. And that's coming from our licensing division, from our enforcement division, from our public health and prevention liaison as well. There are also some concerns around DEIB and social equity, particularly when contemplating extending an allowance like this on a permanent basis to persons who are between 18 and 21 years of age. And some of that's been discussed in WHO, World Health Organization literature that I can share with the board if you're interested in seeing it, if it will help with decision making, and I'll send that to you after we conclude here. But we do think it's worth a discussion at our level. To bring, persons across the authorizing environment together to talk about the public health and safety concerns, as well as the business concerns, because that's primarily the onus for bringing this forward from bringing the petition to the agency. And I'll stop there. Questions?
Did you say you would send us the material on the social equity piece of this? Because
Yeah.
I'm familiar with that. So if there's anything you can share before tomorrow, that would be great.
Yeah, I will. There's a World Health, excuse me, not enough caffeine on the first day I'm talking to you in January. My apologies. Like zero caffeine. World Health Organization report that speaks to kind of some of the tension that we saw during the pandemic with employing persons, vulnerable persons, other persons into different roles and sort of exploiting that, and how there's there could be opportunity for exploitation, if we're using people sort of outside of where they should be employed, I think is a fair way to say it. Okay. WHO does a much better job of explaining it than I do here, but
they had their coffee. That's why
they did. I'm quite sure that they had multiple pots of coffee.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
I have a quick comment, and that is that, I think anytime we have a request and we have the statutory authority, that it warrants a conversation. I mean, I think it's worth exploring. I will say my initial thought is I'm not necessarily feeling supportive of this, I have to say, but I'm open to the conversation, and I'm really interested in what does the research and data show. We know the research and data around brain development and youth and all that kind of stuff. This is different, and the logical part of me goes, well, what's the difference between pouring a beverage at a table versus pouring it elsewhere? So that gives me pause to stop and think, but I'm really interested in looking at this further from the research side of things. And do we have any research? So thank you for bringing this forward.
And
Sure.
I would love to hear the exportation part and things that they're saying, because as I shared in my conversations with you, I understand the business ask of this and what's happening out here in that industry when it comes to employees getting staff, going to restaurants and seeing that they're half empty because they don't have the staff to serve, to fill up the restaurants and stuff. I mean, it's here locally, it's an issue for all of the restaurants and staffing and trying to employ enough people that want to work in hospitality. And it's interesting to see the change of employees after COVID of wanting to come back and work in the public setting, which means something has to be done for these businesses to sustain and to survive. So I'm interested in that portion of it and how they see that as, giving more access for people to serve at the tables is leading into something else. So I'm curious as to what that report says.
Yeah, happy
Yeah.
to share.
And I'm
Yeah.
interested in that as well. I'm also interested in, are there other alternatives to get to the same means? So they're asking this because they want a certain outcome, and that's great. And I think we should explore that. But I'm also curious, have we explored other options that might also get to that same means without having this extend to 18 to 20-year-olds doing this?
And if I could add one more thing, I'd be curious, and I haven't heard of any, but in the time that we had this allowance in place, have we had any reports of problems with any minors working in these facilities?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Didn't receive anything back from enforcement on that, but I can certainly if the board approves this for a rule inquiry, that's something that we can look into
Okay.
during those conversations that we have to determine whether or not we will move forward with rules.
Right. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can have that conversation tomorrow too, I guess. So.
Absolutely. And I think, two other things I wanted to bring up. This also affects another part of WAC, and that's 314.11.040. So there isn't just one section of WAC that is impacted by this particular allowance, right? We talk about what persons under 21 can perform in facilities. So there's actually two rule sections at play here, not just one. And now I've forgotten what the second piece was. My apologies. I'll remember it tomorrow, I'm sure.
Okay, yeah.
Kathy, quick question. Can we get the answer to David's question by tomorrow, that doing this pilot or whatever, were there any concerns from enforcement or in violation?
I'm happy to reach out and find out.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, my pleasure. So that's for us on the rules side today, though.
Great. Okay, thank you. Appreciate the presentation from you and the team.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow. And that brings us to board member and executive assistant reports, if any. Dustin, anything?
Nothing from me, Chair. Just Happy New Year. Good to see everybody.
Same, thank you. Members Vollendorf or Garrett, anything to share today?
I have nothing. Thank you.
Okay, then we'll say Happy New Year. Thank you all, and we'll be here tomorrow, same time for the board meeting. So we'll adjourn the caucus for January 3rd, 2023. See you all tomorrow.
Thank you. Goodbye.